We are now officially starting our Truth Through Discourse live, in which we have a panel of like-minded people to talk about the current issues that are going on in our country, in the United States, and around the world, especially as it pertains to us and our safety and freedom. So I want to welcome everybody, and I want to say thank you for being here. We're just going to get going, and let's see if we can get one more person that wants to join our panel. Of course, we are taking friendlies, so please be mindful of that.
Is my future husband Johnny here? Because he would be great.
Oh, Happy's here. Nice. We got a full panel.
Happy.
Oh, never mind.
Hi. So what topic should kick things off tonight? What do you guys think? Do we want to talk about the border issues?
Yes.
Do we want to talk about tariffs? Do we want to talk about Trump's, I don't even know what you want to call it. I'm trying to figure out the right words so that we don't get a violation.
Before we pick a topic, can you just run over the rules of engagement and like everyone mute their mic if they're not talking or put a hand up, just so everyone's clear on that. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
You take it away.
No,
girl.
totally. That's an absolutely great idea. So rules for engagement, obviously be respectful. No slurs, no calling people names. I think that we kind of got that covered because, you know, we all tend to respect each other here. In terms of speaking, if you could turn on your mic when you want to say something, just so that I know, or you can put a little hand up in the chat. I'm going to try my best to keep my attention onto the chat. But other than that, if you feel like there is a pause in between people talking and you want to say something, go ahead. I'm going to try to keep it as civil as possible. If someone's going on for too long, I'll tell them to take a little time out, move it to somebody else. But I think that's about it. Any other rules of engagement that you can think of, Miss Radical?
Let's try to keep this to 2 issues for the full live. That's
going to be challenging.
It is, but we'll just try to keep it there and see how it goes. Give it a whirl.
Sounds like a plan.
If I may,
Pattern?
I do think that it's really organic if we start with one topic and like a big dinner table, it moves on to others. So it may tangent, I feel, because I know for a fact that I tangent a lot. If you've ever played I can go off the effing rails, so I will do my best to stay on topic. But if it sparks another idea, I don't think we should necessarily bring it back to one idea if other good ideas or conversations start to organically flow, if that makes sense.
Yep. I like that. Everybody okay with that? Give me a thumbs up.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So what should the first start off topic be? Who's got something that's like really important that they want to start talking about? That has to do with us, Canadians.
Voter apathy?
Yeah.
Border apathy, did you say?
Yes.
Voter apathy.
Maybe.
I like that.
Or as it relates from the United States to Canada, when we talk about how Donald Trump attained the Oval Office for the second time, and how we're on the precipice of perhaps having the same kind of consequence in Canada. If I'm not mistaken, we are sitting at less than 70% voter turnout. I also think one of the critical issues that we don't practice in Canada is community engagement outside of apps, where we get like-minded people together and galvanize our movement around numbers, and try to evoke that energy, try to manifest that energy in a youth movement that is beginning to overtake the baby boomers as far as voting groups are concerned.
That's a really good topic to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
Jana?
Oh, I was just going to say I love that topic, and I wanted to talk maybe next about the whole border issue because it's such a
Yeah.
tough issue that I think it needs to be discussed.
Address.
Yeah, because
Okay.
Trump is turning it into something it's not, and Danielle Smith is eating it up.
Oh, don't get me started on her, please.
I can't help it. She's my premier.
She's
She's
Ah,
one
mine
of the
too,
main reasons
unfortunately.
why I left Calgary.
I can understand that.
Hatter.
So I just want to go back to what Happy said about voter apathy, people not showing up, and this new generation. And I want to bring a personal experience that just happened today, and this is something I spoke about. So maybe this would kick the topic off and keep it going with what Happy was saying. Today I was playing Call of Duty with some friends, right? As I do. And this kid joined the party because there were three of us. You play in quads. So a fourth joined. And it was an 11-year-old kid. His voice was deep AF, like we thought he was 19 or something. But the radicalization of young men on this here internet with the American far right ideology and them voting for your body, my choice ideology, I
Hmm.
think ties in with the apathy. Because you've either got people that have realized or at a point where they just don't effing care anymore, or you've got kids being radicalized by Joe Rogan, Tate Twats, and sorry,
That's right. And
Happened to my own son. I have a
Andrew
16
Tate.
And
year old.
then we've
and
also
and I
got
and I
like,
and I think apathy as well as radicalization are on par with the problem that we are facing with the youth today, in my
Yep.
opinion.
I think the Joe Rogan thing is bang on. And I was listening to I like listening to people like Tristan Harris and Malcolm Gladwell when you talk about the impact of the internet and information, misinformation, disinformation, and the techniques that people use. And Joe Rogan's not slow in
Yep.
no.
podcast, which only
Oh,
allows for, like how much time are you spending watching a podcast, listening to a podcast per day? So they're taking up all that bandwidth of yours, and then the rest of it, you don't really have the time to get absorb any real information. So this becomes, your entertainment, your news, and your politics. And you're 100% right. It's causing this like INCEL effect amongst a lot of our younger disenfranchised people who are looking for someone to blame, looking to blame somebody else for maybe the choices they've made or maybe the life that they've been born into. But
mhm. I have a 16-year-old, and he was very much a Trump fan for a while because, and I didn't even
Oh,
realize it happened. Like, I got interested, kind of got back into politics because of Trump, running for president again. And just before he got, like a few weeks before he got elected, my son started talking like really positive about Donald Trump, and I'm like, no, 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 no. He does, like, he gets it now. Uh, luckily, like but they are getting through to the young ones, and it's young white men, and it's scary. Sorry, wrong word. YT, young YT men, and it's scary. It's scary because they're talking their language. Go ahead, Smarshy.
and no, I'm not doing that salute. I'm just trying to hold up my hand to let you know.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So,
No, and it was
so
really scary for me, and I'm glad I was able to get through to him. I did a lot of teaching with him and dissecting the things that Donald Trump was saying and telling him how they weren't true.
But
And he's good now,
and,
but it happens.
and it bothers me because like we have Andrew Tate, we have, oh God, what is that one that just got like attacked at his house? Oh God,
Nick Fuentes.
We have Nick Fuentes, we have all these tater tots saying that, oh, he's such a good person, blah blah blah. He's not. They
No,
are not good people. They are people that we should be knocking down one peg at a time. It's like whack-a-mole. You knock one down, you get another one, other three popping up, and it's so scary. I was like, oh, your son's gonna grow up to not be to be a GAY man. I said, I don't give a shit if my son's GAY or anything like that. My son knows
don't
where
trust the vote.
his place in life is. Just because he doesn't listen to the quote unquote alpha male that you guys say that is the alpha male, it's not a thing. And it's really scary.
Yeah.
Hatter and then happy.
So, um, God, my brain just switched off. Okay, so here's we got two problems with this right now because everyone in this panel, I'm going to assume, is millennial or above, right? So,
Uh,
number one, the parents have a responsibility to step in and monitor what the F your minor is doing because if they're not 18 yet, you are responsible for that human being and what they're watching, listening to, playing, doing. You are responsible for it. And I think society as a whole has let that slide out of, oh, privacy for my kids. No, no, protection for your kids, number one. Number two, for those of us that don't have so, little people. I'm kidding. For those of us that don't have children and the parents that aren't present, how do we as older people get through to these kids on social media that are listening and getting everything through social media? Like, how do we do this? How do we unradicalize these kids?
it's hard.
Because it's also not my responsibility
Hold
to
on.
look after your
Hold
kids.
on.
Sorry.
Happy was next and then Miss Radical. Or no, wait, I think Jana wanted to say something too. Sorry guys, I'm trying to go in order by who put their hands up first. Happy, and then I know Jana wanted to say something, and then Miss Radical.
I really enjoy the format that you're engineering here. It's good for discourse. I think a Hatter, and although we don't always agree, I'd like to point that out for the people watching and for my own benefit. Um, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head in this particular area with the radicalization of the youth. How do we, as parents and older than millennials, how do we affect the change there? And it's what the right have been saying the whole time: engagement, engage in the trustee board, encourage people around you, wives, husbands, stay at home people, to join the trustee groups, the teacher school board trustees, so you can engage with the curriculum and ensure that things aren't being pulled off the shelves. You engage with them by volunteering at your community center, which we're going to do here now. And I will try to lead by example because my son benefits as well. So it's also selfish. I'm not benevolent here. There's a community center up there where it's minimal cost to rent out the space for the day. Engaging with kids. I remember that community center. It was an open gym on Fridays. We would go there and we would go to the gym and we'd be hanging out. And that was our Friday night. So those are the things I think are probably the way we do it. And online monitoring of your children's activities. If you're not doing that, um, it's your fault. Yeah, I blame everything on you. If you're not parenting your children at that moment, I blame you. It does take a village, and the schools are the village.
And the schools, unfortunately, are being attacked a lot of the times, and the teachers are being attacked a lot of the times for trying to do the right thing. So,
100%.
Jana.
Yeah, I just want to say, happy, Matt Hatter, you're both right. I was very embarrassed when my son came to me with his Trump love, like when it first came out. And that's really what got me online. I wasn't really doing TikTok until then. That's what actually got me opening an account and doing my own research and what have you. But you're right. We need to watch our kids more closely because this slipped right under my radar and it was horrifying. And I have two sons. One is gay, my older son. So his brother being like a Trump fan was just like very, that doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? For me. But I think you're right. Like we really need to own up as parents really need to own up and just be careful what their kids are watching. I didn't realize how dangerous TikTok can be for radicalization until it almost happened to my son. You
My
know?
my son was watching YouTube videos, and they seemed innocuous enough, like cartoons. Happy Time Fun Place, Puppy Fun Time Happy Place. I don't know if you've ever heard of it,
No.
but I'm gonna tell you, like
It's
he's young, he's 8. He started watching it when he's 7, and if you watch behavioral patterns, and I'm not a scientist or somebody, but I watched his behavior shift. and we just cold turkey removed it away from him, right? We just took it away from him, and within 2 days, his disposition started to revert, right? So it's really important we understand what they're watching, even though it might seem innocent.
Exactly.
Miss Radical and then Smarshy. Oh, Miss
Yeah,
Radical?
so I
There
was
we go.
gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say pretty much all of what Happy said. You got to get out and you got to touch grass with your kids. You got to get out in the community and get rid of the screen time as best as you can. And I know that's really hard, but get out and go to the park, go for a walk, listen to what your kids are hearing and seeing, talk to them, right? Because that's where it's coming from. These people have been playing the long game through church, through charter schools, through all of these different things. So yeah, being at the parent council, because I worked in schools for 25 years, volunteer in your kids' school. Get in there, get in the library, look at the books they're reading, meet the teachers. It is an amazing experience. Get to your community hall. I had an amazing experience. I got to know my alderman. I got to know my city planners. I got to have amazing experiences in my community with the people I live in. And my kids absolutely benefited from it. And we don't do that as much anymore. We have
And
empty buildings, but we do in community. And this is where Beaver politics kind of came in, right? Is trying to create that community piece.
just before Smart,
Smart.
to add on to what you're saying, and I forgot to mention, if you have a skill, teach somebody, right? Don't try to make money off it all the time. Teach somebody. Teach them how to fish. Teach them how to carpenter or whatever, woodwork. Just do it, right? Like you can do that, community, blah, 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 volunteer and do that.
Going
Smarshy
off
and
what
then the
Happy,
Hatter.
going off what Happy said, my dad's been a contractor my entire life. He taught me how to fix things, not because he wanted to turn me to be a how do I say this? He didn't want me to be like a housewife that had to lean on her husband. He wanted me to be reliant on myself so that when he was gone, I could know what I need to know to fix my problems that I have, right? And owning a house and, taking care of the house and not having to rely on someone else to do it all the time, which I do, but I'm not confident enough. And I think that's what I really need to do is go back into construction and learn a little bit more because then I can become more confident. I think that has a lot to do with it. But again, we need to teach our kids these things. I've tried talking to my 18-year-old about elections and stuff. And he's like, I don't care. Doesn't affect me. And I don't know what to do because it's like beating my head against a drum.
Hatter.
Okay, so sorry, I need to unmute and whatever, so there's a delay. So I just want to go quickly. The two things I wanted to discuss very quickly, just to reply to Smarshy and what Smarshy just said. Just a thought, but have you ever considered maybe putting together a community group on teaching women how to do construction?
Not really, but it sounds like a good idea.
Sounds like a really good idea.
Through the patriarchy, teach women
Really good idea.
construction.
Groups for that too.
So
right?
that was the side thing, but I wanted to go back to this whole conversation about kids, tech. Now, I'm going to be me and very blunt. So I don't have kids, right? But I have worked in security, tech, cybersecurity, ethical hacking, and that sort of thing. And from the outside looking in, I think one of the biggest problems is that tablets and iPhones have become the new pacifiers. You're giving them to your kids from an early age, and by the time they're cognitive, they're unable to function without it, right? Now, the problem that comes therein is that it's also, from my opinion, once again, anything I say is not endorsed, encouraged, or supported by anyone on the panel. It's my opinion, is that our society, everything is a effing struggle. Parents are working 2 jobs, they're never home, so they don't really have time to parent. And that is no fault of their own, right? Not all of them. You can shake your head, don't time out. I'm still saying, what I'm saying is life has become very difficult, and a lot of parents have to work more than 1 job, especially if you're a single mother, right? And this is where kids aren't being monitored all the time. From my perspective, I can see Happy's getting very trigger happy here. But I just want to say that and it's hard. I'm not a parent, so I wouldn't know how hard it is. But I have spoken to parents who have asked me for advice. Oh, what should I do about my kids' behavior online? And I have one simple suggestion, also from a cybersecurity standpoint. If you have a child that is under 18 years of age, you should have some form of monitoring software on your child's devices. You should be controlling how long they're on that, making sure that their schoolwork and everything else is done. That's just my opinion. But I think it's also important for you to be able to monitor what apps they're using and who they're talking to. Because one of the biggest problems online right now is Discord. Because Discord is a safe haven for pedophiles pretending to be kids. So if you have a child, as hard as it is, insert a net nanny if you have to. But it is your responsibility to not only monitor what that child is doing, but protect that child, which means protecting them protecting them not just from radicalization, but from pedophiles. You, as a parent, I know it must be very hard to raise other human beings when you're working two jobs, especially if you're a single mom. I'm not, right? But that's no excuse. There are alternatives. There are ways.
That's
It
the
is
last
your
part right
job.
there. There is no excuse. You're
It
right.
is-
100% of what you said was right.
I thought you were going to come for me.
100% of what you said was right.
So it's your job. Like, if you have a minor, it's not an invasion of privacy to protect your kid, right? So
Yep.
take their device, you pay for it, you pay the bills, it's your damn cell phone.
Well,
and
we go
tablet.
further than that. We go
You
further.
install the software on. I'm not saying sit there like a creeper and monitor every single thing that they're doing, but it is your job to protect them from pedophiles, from radicalization, and from frying their effing brain cells online.
Yeah, that's right. But the thing what you said that's really important to hold on to is it's your responsibility. It's your problem. Your, like, as a parent, you cannot push the blame onto someone else. You cannot say it's the internet. You cannot say it's access to the internet. You cannot say it's school system or education or politics. You're the parent. This is your ultimate responsibility, is to protect and raise a child so that they are not harmful to the people around them, and even more so are a benefit to the community around them, right? That's your main job.
So,
With my
But
children,
sorry, just to go back to what I was saying, but I do, from the outside looking in, once again, guys, I'm not speaking from a place of first-hand knowledge because I don't have kids. But I do think it is becoming increasingly harder for parents based on economics and working two jobs, especially if you're a single mom. And as hard as it may be, it's still not an excuse. There are options. You can sit back at the end of the day and just check what your child was doing. You don't need to read every single message, but you have a responsibility for that human being until it's 18.
until it's 18. I love it. But also, it's Marshy. I was sorry. So when you
Just
say-
quickly, just quickly a little bit, just because there's still people from this panel that we haven't even heard from yet. So I just really wanted to ask Miss Trudeau and Brotherman if they had anything to add to this conversation, just to make sure that everybody's being heard.
sure, thank you. Just quickly, I was just wondering, like, I mean, we're putting all this responsibility on the parents to monitor but not overreach, monitor but not be overbearing, monitor but not micromanage. So then we're saying it's their responsibility to make sure the child doesn't, I guess, be negatively influenced by online. So if the child is negatively influenced and the parent was trying to try and manage and not overreach, manage and not be overbearing, does that then mean that the parent failed? Is
No,
that
I mean you have evidence of throughout history of different things that would you could use as a juxtaposition to say that, you know, it's not necessarily for a lack of trying that something bad happens. And therefore you should not bear the burden of guilt for the rest of your life. But if you're just negligent and distant and disconnected from a child, and then you wonder why later on, I think there's a little bit of a contradiction in that philosophy.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And if it doesn't, smack the taste out of its mouth. That was a joke.
I still want to go back to what Hatter said at some point. So if you could remind me that I had a thought when everybody's done talking.
Okay, I will remember. Brotherman.
Yeah, I don't really have kids, so it's not really something I could overly speak on. But I got to say, I do agree with everything everyone said in this conversation. You know, I think it's just common sense, honestly, that you got to monitor everything your kid, not really everything, but the vast majority of everything your kid does online without being overbearing, right? You know, you can't break that boundary of being overbearing, but you got to make sure that your kid doesn't actually get into the basics of being radicalized, you know? So, yeah, I gotta say, you know, I agree with everything everyone said, you know? Thank you for letting me join.
Jana.
I just I wanted to reiterate that ignorance can sometimes be bliss and it can get you into trouble. So if your kids are online, learn from my mistake, pay attention to what they're watching. I didn't even think of software. Well, okay, actually I did think of software, Mad Hatter. It's trying to figure out the boundaries, but safety comes first. Safety.
If they are under 18, the boundaries are set by the parent.
Yep, exactly.
Old-fashioned, but if your child is under 18, it is a child, and the boundaries are set by the parent.
It's actually 16.
Boundaries are set
100%
by the
true.
parent, but then that would,
Hold
Does
on,
that
one at a
mean-
time, everybody, please.
I think what I was just saying is that for the parents out there who may have messed up like me, own it and do better is what we can do, right? Not just, figure it's too late now or there's no point or, you know what I mean? Just be aware that kids, I didn't realize how political TikTok was. I had no idea. I thought it was people dancing. It's just not something I was following until I started following it because my son was and saw what it is. And I love TikTok, but it needs to be monitored. You need to know what people are watching or what your kids, children under 18, are watching.
We also have legislation that went forward, C63 and C11, right? We have governments that are willing to enact these kinds of legislations. I don't want to make this partisan. Liberals are still the best. Please continue.
Sorry, I know that Smarshy had a hand up way before, and then Miss Radical also had a hand up. So I just want to make sure that
I
we
just
get to
wanted
them.
to hear. I can wait. Mine's not important. It's just to tag on to what everyone's saying. But
Okay.
as a single mom, I'll just say this really quick. As a single mom, not having that ability to be a co-parent with his dad, it really sucked. It really sucked when he was growing up because I would tell his dad don't let him on these sites. You got to watch what he's doing because he's little. And his dad's like, oh, don't be overbearing. But then he comes back to me and says, oh, Dad, let me play on this site, which I normally don't allow him. So how am I supposed to keep him safe when he's with his dad? And that's the biggest problem I have with being a single parent. It's not because I don't want him to have fun. It's just I want to keep him safe, and that was the biggest thing for me. So I'll just let my blame there.
Yeah, my husband passed away.
Hold on. Sorry. That was a horrible time to cut you off. I just wanted to make sure that Miss Radical's, she's had her hand up for a really long time. Miss Radical?
Sorry about the delay. I didn't think that would happen. Hatter was asking about how people with young children, what they can do to make a difference. And I think one of the things that people that don't have children could do is they can get security clearances and they can go out and they can become mentors through Big Brothers and Big Sisters and other programs like that within our community, because there's a lot of young people that need those connections.
I hate to say this, but that's not really an option for a gay man.
It is a struggle, and I don't have an answer for everyone.
No, I know. I'm just
and your experience is different than what I've lived, and you have a A very valid point. A very valid point.
I don't know what happened to Happy, but
No, he said he's got to step a foot bit.
If I can just interject before we move on, I did just share a link for any of the parents that are watching. There is a cybersecurity website. I will say it now in case the link didn't go through. For all the parents that want to know, there is a list of the top 10 software for parental monitoring. The best thing you can do is take a look at them and see which one works for you. Is it okay if I read the link? There's no kickback, there's no feedback. It's just a trustworthy source. So for anyone interested, it is ca.cybernews.com. So you can type that into Google and then space and just write best parental control apps in Canada. And that's just Google there, see which one works for you. Because I
Can
saw
you?
some people asking which ones are the best. It depends on what you're comfortable using, right? Any app is like that. Some of you prefer editing on Adobe, some of you prefer Sony Vegas. It's about user enjoyment, I guess, what's easier for you. So take a look at the trials, see which one works for you. That's the best advice I can give, and I'm sorry for cutting anyone off if I did.
okay, I think Smarshy wanted to add something.
Oh, I was just saying that if he could send me the link to that, that would be great.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right, so I think we should kind of. Oh,
Sorry,
Radical, go ahead.
I'll try and type it in the comments again. I don't know if links are going through, but I'll type the website in the comments now for anyone getting ready to record it. Sorry for interrupting.
I can
just want
hear
to say
some background noise.
the
Is
whole
that I hear a
parenting
radio or
gambit.
something? I can hear myself echoing. I think that's.
Okay.
Maybe
I just wanted to say on the whole parenting thing that the one thing we have to remember, one of the key characteristics of human learning is that most of what we learn by visuals and by what we see in the environment around us. So while the parent does have a tremendous amount of influence in the early stages, the older that the child gets, the less influence that the parent has directly. And the impact that electronics have on the brain, that overstimulation, is really what is happening. Is it overloads a lot of the sensors in the brain, and it becomes almost like an addiction, and a lot of the characteristics are very similar. I am personally a proponent that most kids should not have direct internet access use without direct supervision before about 5, because we're actually fundamentally changing the shape of kids' brains these days, and I'm not sure for the better.
I agree.
Add to that.
Yep,
That
go
rem-
ahead.
Sorry, that reminds me.
You hit the nail on
Hold
the
on.
head. Sorry.
No, 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 not you, Hatter. I mean,
Okay.
Hatter. I told him to just be quiet to let you talk. Please go ahead.
Oh, by the way, I love your videos. I follow you. And I just wanted to add to what Radical said. It's absolutely correct. When you become addicted to anything, your brain actually constructs new pathways to get that fix quicker and more efficiently. And you can correct that through therapy and building new pathways, synopses and so on. But when you see a child at 2 years old, and I've seen videos of children under 4 with 2 devices on their lap, sitting on a couch, watching a TV, they're doing it for a reason. They're getting dopamine and serotonin, and they're getting a lot of it. They're hardcore hooked. So definitely under a certain age, no, you don't need that. And you're actually destroying your brain and making you more susceptible. And in the long run, it'll be a lot harder to get off it because it is an addiction. And I just wanted to quickly jump on here and say that a lot of times, because we have single parents or people that are working double shifts or multiple jobs, not just this issue, but a lot of issues could be tackled if we just raised minimum wage so that parents could spend more time raising the next generation. We could also increase the pay of teachers so that I think people that are teaching are already dedicated, because why would you do that if you didn't like it? Because you're certainly not getting the pay or the kudos you deserve in a lot of situations. But give them the money they deserve so they can do extra training, they can keep up on the latest things. I know I said that was all I had to say, but one more thing, sorry. If I need to learn something new, this is why I like YouTube, and I'm going to use it soon for TikTok because I just started making videos. I want to make better videos, and YouTube is a great asset. You go on there and you just type in, what do I want to learn? How to make better TikTok videos. And I can watch, 5, 6 videos on that and up my game. So try it for this topic, or, child and internet access and safety, or any topic. That's all. Thank you.
Hatter,
By the way, oh
you're
shit,
welcome.
I'm not on mute and I coughed, so I apologize if that drowned out anyone talking. So I made a couple of notes just to on the whole topic of kids, and then something else. So I want to go to what is it Christine? I can't see the full name. Christine
Yep.
said about increasing minimum wage. I agree with that 100%. And I do think a very eye-opening thing would be I am gonna Frontline. I'm gonna send you a DM, find out when this happens again. There is a friend of mine, a very close guy. He's in the Nordic countries. He lives in Norway. He's from Iceland. And the amazing quality of life that the Nordic people have because of government social programs would blow your minds. Everything right down to the way they do a prison system is not to enslave their people. It's to help their people and to rehabilitate, which is what prison should be.
Not
So
punitive.
I really want to get Gums in here one day to talk. It's so eye-opening to hear these perspectives from other countries. So I made a note about that. And I wanted to jump back onto the protection of kids online. Now, once again, for those of you that do know, I worked in cybersecurity for a while. I did ethical hacking. My job was looking at ways to break into things and think outside the box on how to monitor or get in or do whatever. We did this before the bad guys did. That was our job, right? Now, kids are sneaky as so. Another thing that I just remembered for you parents, I already shared the monitoring apps. But I guarantee you that some of your teenagers have hidden devices that you don't know about. I guarantee it, right? There are other apps. Like there is one, I know, like I here in Quebec, I'm with something called Videotron, and we actually have an app for this. Most of your networks do. It's a little confusing to get into it. However, as the parent who is the owner of the Wi-Fi, there is a wonderful, like if you start monitoring your kids' shit, I guarantee you they're going to get a phone from a friend or a tablet from a friend to do some sneaky BS, right? As a parent, I would like to let you know about one of the easiest applications to use. You can download it right now on your phone. It is called Thing. I would say pay the $5 a month. It's FING. That is a Wi-Fi monitoring tool. So I guarantee you your kid's not paying for data. They're connecting to your Wi-Fi. So if you have Thing on your phone, you can monitor every single device that connects to your home Wi-Fi, and you can block it. So if you are monitoring your teenager's phone, they're in a hissy fit about it, and then once again, guys, if any kids jump in here, we're not trying to control you, we're trying to protect you, right? I'm just giving some parents advice. You may hate them now, but I guarantee you when you're older, you will be grateful for this behavior. So the app is called Thing. You can download it on your devices now, connected to your Wi-Fi, and if you control the Wi-Fi, you can see every single device that connects to your network, and you can boot it and block it so that they can't connect to your Wi-Fi, right? This is not just to monitor your kids or protect your kids. Just make sure that your home is protected.
Can I
It's a,
add? Can I add to that?
yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
And then after this, I'm going to time out this discussion just because we've been at it for 40 minutes and we haven't even talked about, adult voter apathy, which is, I
Oh,
think,
okay. Never
a
mind.
little bit more pressing when it comes to this discourse. But no, Christine, go ahead.
No, really. Let's just carry on. I don't want to waste anyone's time. It was nothing.
Uh,
It's not wasted time. I'm just being the host and just moving the conversation
Oh,
along. We're not wasting time. I'm just saying that we've been on this one topic for 40 minutes and we do have to get through other topics as well, but you're not wasting anybody's time. So please go
okay.
ahead.
Cool. Thank
Before
you.
Christine goes, once she's done, can you, as the host, summarize what we just said before moving on to the next topic for those that just joined? Just a thought. Sorry. Zip it.
No worries.
I was just trying to back him up because I know as a kid growing up in the 80s, yes, I am 50, I got really pissed at my parents because I couldn't sleep over a person's house unless they knew the parents. They told me if I even felt uncomfortable a tiny bit, they would get up at 4 in the morning and get me. Uh, they taught me, good touch, bad touch. In fact, it was their parents won't touch you or you're calling me. And I thought it was a drag, guys, if there's kids in here, but it wasn't. They did me a favor, and I appreciate it now because I couldn't see it at the time. But this is all for you and making your life a better life. That's all.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, as a little recap for the last 40 minutes or so, we've been talking about. Can you guys still hear me? Everything just went super quiet in my ears. Okay. So, for the last 40 minutes, we've just been talking about, children being radicalized online and the responsibility that parents have to play in that not happening. And I'm just going to end it with, I'm going to end that topic, not the live, with just a little bit of like devil's advocate here. I think that that's obviously things that parents do need to strive, but I don't know if it's going to go very far if parents aren't all on board. Because I remember being young. I mean, we didn't have, like cell phones and stuff back in my day. But I do remember that, if my parents were very strict with me, and they were because, we're Eastern European. So I grew up with like, if you don't do what I'm going to tell you, you're gonna feel it. But in that sense, I would go to school and I would see that other parents weren't doing the same thing, and that really made me become a little bit of a shit disturber. And in grade 11, I actually ran away from home because I didn't like how strict they were with me. I felt it was unfair. And so when it comes to online stuff, if kids are going to school and then other kids are having all these things on their phone and they're watching all these things and they're going, oh, look at this Joe Rogan guy, look at this interview, they're sharing these things with each other at lunchtime or breaks or, while they're skipping class. Those kids are going to feel like, oh, my parents are being so bad, they're leaving me out. And they're going to try to find ways to consume that information, or they're going to lash out at their parents, or who knows, right? So this is why it's super, super important that all parents get on board. And this is why teachers should be bringing in parents and having, giant meetings at school to talk about why this is an issue and how all the parents need to be on the same page. So until the adults can get on the same page, the kids are going to have a really hard time with that. And that's what I fear, is that at the end of the day, these kids are a result of their parents' way of either letting them or not letting them take in this information, not to mention that a lot of parents believe in this information and even share it with their kids. So it's a very difficult thing to really tackle until all the adults get on board. And that's something that kind of leads into this next part of the conversation, which is voter apathy. There's a lot of voter apathy in adults, not just young people, right? I see it in adults all the time. I deal with the public for my day job, and I hear constantly, and I mean constantly, that people have no clue what's going on. They don't check in with the news. They don't have any idea when elections are happening. A lot of people didn't even know that Donald Trump became president of the United States in January. I kid you not.
what?
I kid you not. I kid you not. There are people that live in their own little bubbles. Like, I participate a lot being a yoga teacher in the kind of like spiritual community. And I'm telling you, most of my students have no clue what's going on in the world. Zero, like zero. The other day, me and one of my students were talking about, oh, things might get a little bit more expensive for Canadians because of all the tariffs. And she just looked at us and went, oh, I don't care. I'm just going to drive across the border to get cheap things the way I always do. And I was like, well, they're not going to be necessarily cheaper in the States either. You do get that? And she's like, what? I don't understand any of that, but I always get my stuff from the States, so I'm just going to keep driving across the border to get my stuff down there. And then I asked her, I'm like, do you know that like Donald Trump is the president of the United States now? And she's like, yeah, so this is like 50% of our citizens. Like, they just don't know. They're not aware. They don't want to know either, because the news in the last couple of years has been so overwhelming for people that they're just tuning out. So let's talk about that. Adult voter apathy. What do you guys have to say about that? Smarshy, you had Smarshy had her hand up first, and then you had her.
Hatter did.
No, go.
Oh, okay, Hatter,
had
and then
before them.
Hatter. Okay, Hatter first, and then Smarshy.
So, I'm trying to. You know that video, Be Nice? I'm finding it. That's where I'm at right now, because I know what I want to say, but I know this isn't my TikTok, so I need to be a bit more diplomatic with my words. While I agree with you on, people just got tired of the news, it's selfishness and nihilism. That is a reason. It's that simple. It is self-indulgent, first world problems, or first world ideology that has made these people not care about what's happening. And that's as polite as I can be, because I never gave up about politics until Donald Trump started running for president. Because then I was like, oh shit. Because luckily I was educated enough to know that what happens in America happens here. It affects here. It has ramifications across the globe. So anyone and listen, I know this sounds stupid because I know not everyone cares the way I do, but I truly give a fuck about human rights. It's that simple.
I'm with you on that.
I know, like Happy said earlier, I don't agree with all of your... That's fine. No one has to agree with me. We are not a monolith. But the one thing we can agree on is that even if we don't agree, everyone deserves the same basic human rights. It's that simple, right? So for me, I'm trying to... Anyone that is not paying attention to what the hell is going on in the world is too self-absorbent to give a fuck about anyone else. That is the way I see it. And this is why my content is no longer polite. Because I am not going to pussyfoot around a group of individuals that could give a fuck if I, as a gay man, have the same rights or not as them. Because look what's happening in America. Look at that video I did that went micro-viral. Suddenly, all the white women are on my page screaming about standing together. Black women in America have been screaming at you to stand together for decades. But it didn't affect you, so you didn't care. So anyone that is not paying attention right now is because they're doing it from a place of privilege. And I don't know how to get through to these people other than physical violence. I'm not a violent person, but I'm at the point where I'm ready to slap a bitch for their aloofness. Because your aloofness, if you're not casting a vote because you don't care, it's because it's not affecting you yet. So if you do not cast a vote, or you cast a political statement vote at a time when human rights are on the line, you're casting a vote for fascism. It's that simple. And from here on out, I am no longer playing nice with fascists. It's that simple. Because you, as white women, I hate to break it to you, and you're probably going to be like, oh, why? Because white woman tears. Okay, just shut up. But listen, Linda, listen. White women, hate to break this to you, Bubula, but you are a DEI hire. You are
Yep.
a DEI.
I've got
Anything
it,
that is
please.
not
I've
a
got a
white
reply.
Christian male is a DEI hire. So for you voting because you think it only affects the blacks, the gays, the theys, and the indigenous people, guess what, lady? It affects you too. That's my rant. Sorry, I get very passionate.
Here's
I'm
the
not
thing.
angry. I'm passionate.
You're
I was
right. I've had conversations.
One at a time, please. Sorry. Smarshy had her hand up first, so we're gonna let Smarshy talk. Then Christine wanted to talk, and then we'll go to Jana.
exactly what Heather said. I was on a live yesterday or yesterday night, early this morning, whatever. This white woman told me with her whole fucking chest that I have to have empathy for those who don't know what they're voting for because they're just uneducated. And I said, look, where is your empathy for indigenous people, black people, the BIPOC community as a whole, the 2SL, every person that's a marginalized group? Where's your empathy for them? Her then response was, you know, you just gotta be a little nicer. Fuck that. I don't have to be nice anymore. I don't have to give empathy to those who don't deserve my goddamn empathy at all. You are going to sit here and tell me that I need to feel sorry for the poor white people? What about the people that are putting my people in the corner and only using this as a political pawn? I'm done. Done being nice. Done being empathetic. I can't do it anymore.
I am very quickly going to interject. Sorry, just to add to what Smarshy said, y'all need to realize that for the longest time, we as left-leaning individuals have taken the high fucking road and it got us nowhere. These fascists have had years to plan, and we keep taking the high road. You do not need to be nice to be a good person. Those are two separate things.
I'm
We
done.
no
I'm not doing
longer
it.
have
Can
the
I?
luxury of being kind to fascists. It's that simple. Sorry, and now I'll shut up. Sorry, I get passionate.
I just wanna address a comment real quick, and then we'll go over to Christine. Somebody in the comments just said people feel nobody listens to them, so they say let the house burn. I'm sure people like that exist, but I do want to say that I do know a lot of people who they don't care to have anybody listen to them because they don't have any sort of opinions on political matters. I ended up breaking up my friendship with my best friend when Trump got in, when he got voted for this last year, because she's just not willing to get involved or care or want to learn anything because she lives a very privileged life and she thinks that nothing bad's going to happen. And she basically just says, oh, all of you guys that talk politics, you're just being negative and you're taking away from like the joy of existing, because she doesn't genuinely believe anything bad's going to happen. It's not because she doesn't feel like people are hearing her out. She has more than enough. She makes a ton of money. She's got a very comfortable life. She's, she works in a male dominant job, actually. And so she doesn't think anything bad's ever going to happen to her. And she just doesn't care. She just doesn't care because she would rather go out and have fun and go out for chai tea lattes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people that are like that. It's not just the people that are unfortunately been struggling and feels like nobody's been listening to them. Anyway, Christine, go ahead.
Thanks. It's so sad, but it's so true. A lot of people, not everyone, especially not people right here, don't give a hoot unless it affects them. So what I've tried to do is how to have an arsenal of persuasion and sometimes argument that I can tailor when I meet certain people that don't give an F because it's not hurting them. So I go through my arsenal and I find that thing that they're going to connect to and go, oh shoot, that will hurt me, because they don't care about anyone else. That's just the truth, right? But that's not what I'm there for. I'm there to try and get them on my side, honestly. So I'm going to pull something out and say, look, this does matter because you'll get hurt. And I'll try not to say it condescending, but that's what sometimes you got to do. Does that mean that I give leeway to those that are so far gone and up their own butts and are fascists? Hell no.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried. I've tried to let people know how it would impact them, and a lot of the times they still don't really seem to care that much. Jana and then Hatter.
Can I go after that?
Yep, Jana, Hatter, Sean.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I cannot tell you how many arguments I've had in my comment section or even posting with people. They just don't give a fuck about anybody else. They just don't care if it doesn't affect them directly. And I have a really hard time with that because I don't know. I guess I just thought Canadians were different than that. You know, that we weren't so self-centered that we vote based only on what it's going to do or what we believe it's going to do for our particular situation and our particular family. Like we need to look at the larger picture. We need to look how it's affecting children in our community. Like people privatizing healthcare, for example. I want to know the kid down the street with leukemia is going to get taken care of and get the medical support and the medications that they need, you know, like, and Daniel Smith's talking about privatizing healthcare. I'm sure that's going to be a mess if it happens. But my bigger point is just that look at all of the issues and all of the people that are involved and who is, you know, people are going to be hurt by these decisions. And as for apathy, like the United States, how many people are marching now? And it's beautiful to see, but they didn't get out and vote. And I know there's some debate about whether or not he actually won the election, which is a fair thing to bring up. But we need to make sure that we don't make the same mistake. So that people get out and cast a vote.
Miss Radical, don't
In
drop.
line.
Miss Radical, don't drop. I'm sorry to interject. Sorry, Jana, please finish.
Oh, that's okay. No, I just wanted to say that we really need to work on this apathy because you're right. People just don't care. Like they don't know what's going on around them, and they don't know how bad it is in the States. Like the price of eggs. Let's talk about that. It's over $13 in some places in the States for a dozen eggs right now. That's, you know, and it has not gone down, and it's not going to because he never cared.
I just want to say something after Hatter, and then I'm going to drop the Zojin.
I was gonna drop for Zojin because my battery is running low. So
Okay.
yeah, no, you guys can stay, please. Because I'm probably gonna leave you with a lot to talk about after I go on this.
Before
But I
you
want
go,
Janet to
I love
finish.
your work.
Yes.
Yes, I
Mine?
love your work.
Go ahead.
Jerry, no, finish, Jenna. Please finish.
I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. I was just going to say that people really need to get involved, and I'm going to say this now. Like we need to be out there when this vote is happening, volunteering to make sure that things are clean and not tampered with. Because I'm really worried about Musk, and I think we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like this person wants to interject themselves into our politics, and they obviously don't have any. What's the word I'm looking for? Morals, scruples, anything. They just want to win. They want a right-wing government all across. And we're going to be hurt very badly if that happens, especially if PP were to win a majority. I don't think he's going to at this point, but we need to be prepared and we need to keep it up.
Yeah. I could go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, Hatter, and then Sean, and then Treaty.
So I'm going to jump off to Sean because I haven't spoken to this gentleman yet. I really want to hear what he has to say before I leave. But I am going to drop because it's almost 9 p.m. my side in Montreal and my battery is low. And there are so many things I've kind of lost my train of thought a little. But I am going to say this. I'm no longer interested. Like, listen. We've all seen my content. We all know that I can be a see you next Tuesday, and that's for entertainment purposes, right? And I smack down the far-right conservatives. I am no longer interested in having intellectual debates with those individuals because they lack the empathy, the human emotion, and let's be blunt, the intellect to engage in these conversations. So my content on the political side is to ensure that people that are apathetic or on the fence pay attention. Those are the people I'm trying to reach. Everyone else that's that far gone is just entertainment for me to smack them down, right? I don't care about these people. I don't. Not in the sense that I don't care about people, but I don't care about trying to get through to them because we're never going to. We should know this now. We've been fighting the same frickin' conspiracy theories since the Ku Klux Convoy, right? And the sad fact remains that a lot of these individuals do not give a flying fuck about another human being. Because if your morality would allow you to support and endorse a rapist in the White House and human rights for cheaper eggs, then you're not my kind of people. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Not everyone is going to agree with what I say, and that's okay, right? And just because I don't agree with certain things, even within my own queer community, just because I don't agree doesn't mean I'm going to take your rights away or vote against you. Because I don't have to agree to know that you have the same fucking rights that I do. You deserve to live as a fucking cardboard box, if that's how you want to identify. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I don't need to agree, but you're a human fucking being, so you deserve the same rights to be that cardboard box. I don't care, right? What I care about is the fact that there are so many individuals on this app, I had to bite my tongue there, that would rather vote and put money over people. And I'm going to end it with this, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again till I'm blue in the face, right? I have hope for Canada. Because as a Canadian that was born here, raised by people that grew up in Canada, and my father's side is very Canadian, and my mother's side is South African, right? And when she left, we went back to South Africa. Not the point of the conversation. The conversation is that my entire life, I was raised and taught about how wonderful, accepting, and kind, and stand-up individuals Canadians are. Look, I'm going to tell you, as someone who grew up on the outside, it is a fucking honor to be a Canadian to the world. We are revered and we are looked up to as the nicest people, the people with the best morals. Look, Americans pretend to be us when they go to other countries because of how respected we are around the world. So I have hope that there are more people that think like that still in Canada. And I know it seems bleak and I know it seems dim, but I have to believe that these individuals on the far right are the loud minority, because this is not what I was raised to believe Canadians are. We are good people. We fight for human rights. We stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Hell, we created the Geneva checklist to protect other people. So you may not agree with them, but as a Canadian, you will fight for them. That is what I was raised to believe. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are sitting on Beyonce's internet calling yourself a patriot while encouraging economic warfare on our country, you are not a Canadian patriot. You are a fucking traitor. It's that simple. If you want to be American so fucking badly, go to America. Because it is an honor and a privilege to live in one of the greatest countries in the world and be one of the greatest people from the greatest country in the world. And I will take that to my fucking grave. So for me, I don't care if I have to pay more in taxes to make sure that every other Canadian gets what they need to survive, because that is what I was raised. The Canadian values are. It is humanity, it is kindness, it is compassion, and it is empathy. And if you are voting for eggs over other human fucking beings, then you are not Canadian. You're a traitor.
Can you do a post like that?
Yes,
Absolutely. Can you do more monologues like that, please?
That was beautiful.
I'm gonna have you. I'm gonna have you on my live, and we're gonna talk. Okay?
All right, guys.
I'm very passionate about this. I've lived here since 2006. It was my dream all my life to come back to the place I was born. And I am fucking happy to be here. I am grateful to be here. And I am proud to be Canadian. I love South Africa. It's where my mother's family was from. It was where I was raised. But I call myself Canadian before anything else. And that's my piece. And Sean, sorry for taking so long. And feminist, I love you. Thank you for having me up. I'm going to listen, Sean, and then I'm going to drop for the one, the only, the God amongst men, Zoshin. So I can never pronounce it right. Zoshin?
Zojin.
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 I'm busy making him out to be a demigod, and I can't pronounce his name properly. Okay, that was my speech. That was my monologue. I'm done.
That was great. That was great. You know what?
Thank
Everybody
you.
loved it. People in the comments all agreed with you. So that was great. Thank you. It was poetic. Thank you.
Very
Sean.
much.
So, yeah, for about the voter apathy, I really think, I mean, there's obviously several different causes of it, and I do think there are two main causes. One, I believe it has to do with the media. The media is portraying politics and news stories like that as entertainment, and they want money, and they want more clicks or more reads or more views. They don't care if, if the story is blown out of proportion as long as people are watching. I think that has a lot to do with it. A lot of people just, like, I think Jana, I think, said people just start to tune out. I think that's something that we have to deal with. We have to elect a government that is willing to walk the fine line between free speech and the media. Second, again, it's also been mentioned, but privilege. I am a white male, so I am close to the top. I mean, I am LGBTQ. I'm also overweight, so that brings me down a couple of notches. However, in my position, I see all these people who just don't give a damn. Like my best friend, he is white, male, well off, has pretty privilege. He just doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about anything. He even, like, I don't even remember the conversation. We were talking about Donald Trump, and he was like, Donald Trump really isn't that bad, Sean. I really think that you're just blowing it out of proportion. And I was just flabbergasted. I mean, how can you not see Donald Trump? Well, anyways, but he's not even on the right. He's not even like right of center. But he just doesn't see it. Through his privilege, he's just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. His biggest thing, he actually just bought a condo about 3 months ago. His biggest thing was the economy, the interest rates, and the housing market. And where he is in Montreal, there's a safe injection site around the corner, and him and his partner have been fighting to get rid of it because it brings down their property value. If they ever want to sell, they won't make any money because of the safe injection site, and that's all he cares about. So yeah, but I also just wanted to say that before people even know that I am LGBTQ, the things that white males say, absolutely disgusting, absolutely disgusting, and I really think that's another thing that we have to tackle, because the people who are really pushing the far right agenda, they are mostly all white males.
I do want to drop down, but I just wanted to say my goodbyes, if that's okay, quickly before anyone else moves on. So I want to thank everyone. I know I'm a lot. I know I'm extra, y'all, and I'm okay with that. I just want to quickly say, Zoshin, I love you. Feminists, I love you. I love all of y'all. But just before I drop, to add on to what Sean said about media, it's because we no longer have investigative journalists. We unfortunately live in a world where
Wait,
there
I
are
was going to talk about
opinion
that.
pieces. And you can. We
Okay.
no longer have investigative journalists. We have opinion pieces. And that's a whole new topic. And that's my time. I have some dogs to walk and feed. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for letting me in this space. I will gladly sit on the bench if you ever need a host, and I will be kinder, I promise, to a degree. Uh, love you all. Thank you for the time. Bye.
Check my
Bye.
channel out.
Bye.
How do I get
I
out
know
of
that
this?
Treaty. You just click that X on the. Yep, there we go. I know Treaty Birder wanted to go next, and then we're going to give it up to Zojin after.
Awesome, thank you. I gotta say before I speak though, I love the pantsuit on your little beaver. That's awesome. Anyway, okay. I wanted to just
Very
add,
me. It's very
yeah,
me.
it is totally it was so cool. I wanted to just give another piece of the puzzle for people to think about, and this information is really for awareness, and I'm not seeking solutions or anything because it needs to come from grassroots. But I want to bring up people were saying about apathy and people think it's not going to affect them and the government doesn't have anything to do with me and things like that. And of all the indigenous people in Canada, the folks that live and reside on reserve, like and work on reserve, the government plays an active role in almost every aspect of their life, their housing, their infrastructure, their education, their healthcare, how much their wages are, how their band office is administered. All of those things are decided with them, but through government, right? And through government funding and all types of arrangements like that. Yet, First Nations on reserve specifically do not vote. They have a very low voter turnout. And of course, it makes sense, right? This is a system that was imposed upon them, a system that they have learned cannot be trusted. It's not really, I don't know what the word for it is, if it's not really apathy to me, it's more like fear and just, I'm not sure if there's a proper term or if it's just the mistrust. But I just want to make folks, because we have a lot of people in the room, and not many people get to hear these things about what First Nations face and why they're not participating. And this system has been nothing but really colonial and quite negative towards First Nations people. So I wish I had a solution, and part of what I try to talk about on Monday nights to get our people interested in voting. And when I think about this upcoming election, it is Indigenous Canadians who are, our rights are at dire risk if we have to be forced to reconsider now about new access to minerals, people coming for our water. There goes, like, our rights are so land based and there's already so little land remaining in Canada. I know it seems vast, but it has been cut up to pieces, and specifically in the prairie provinces. But these are just things I want folks to have a little bit of understanding. So I'm not seeking much engagement, but I'm happy to hear some if people have ideas, for sure. But I wanted to just add the Indigenous perspective to the voter turnout conversation. And I appreciate your time. And I don't know how you follow and act like the Hatter. So
Can I add?
Sure. Sorry, I wanted Zojin to go after because he's been waiting to talk all the way like back into the comments. So I wanted to let him chat, unless you have a really short point that you
It's
just want
short.
to add.
All I
Okay, go
was going
for
to
it.
say was when I talk about having an arsenal of arguments, I would suggest, it might not work. It's up to you. Say, listen, we can't change the system, but we can try and change it from within. Like, we can't get out of the system we have. It's the one we have. So let's get as much info
Oh
about
yeah.
how we can change it from within. That's my
I've
only
been
suggestion.
I've been saying that since 1997 when I started my career at Indian Affairs. So, but yeah, no, I hear ya. Thank you. I agree, and spread the word. Anyways, Zojin, it's nice to see you. I'll pass the floor.
Can I go
All
after
right.
Zoltan?
Yep.
I just wanted to rewind the conversation a little, although it's kind of about everything that people have been talking about. I posted it in chat quite a while ago, and my approach for reaching apathetic voters or conservative people in general is you have to ask yourself, do you want to be right or do you want to solve the issue? Like, do you want to be like, and by right, I don't mean technically correct. I mean, like, do you want to validate your own emotions? Do you want to win that argument or do you want to resolve something? Because in any conflict, and reaching out with to conservative people is a conflict sometimes, um, you have to know what your goal in that argument is, and whether you choose that you want to be correct, like you want to be righteously angry, or do you want to reach that person? Like there's no correct answer. Like Hatter with his rant there, he wants to feel his like righteous anger. This is very, very valid. Like I do the same thing. Like if anyone's familiar with my content, I will verbally smack some people down sometimes, because my goal on that is just to reinforce like my value or my belief, to validate what I think is correct there. My goal is not necessarily to reach that person, and to get them to change their mind. But then sometimes I will have a video where I'm like way more calm talking to people and trying to reach out and explain stuff. And my goal there isn't to convince that person they're wrong and that I'm right. It's like seek to understand what they mean and why. And then like this is human psychology. Like people won't listen to you if they don't feel listened to first most of the time in any kind of conflict resolution. So sometimes you have to reach out to that person and like let them explain why they think Trudeau is fucking terrible or whatever before you can talk to them about why that's not necessarily true. So like I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but I find it helpful to always just ask, do I want to be right in this situation, or do I want to actually resolve this conflict or reach that person and get them to think about something differently? Because those are two very different goals. And there is no right decision. If people, especially like marginalized people, they want to just vent and be frustrated and verbally smack that person down, they have every right to do that. So I'm not criticizing anyone's approach. I'm just saying like it's beneficial for us to be honest with ourselves as to what our goal in those interactions is. I don't take the floor back. Let me know if that makes any sense or not.
Yeah, that makes total sense. When you first approach someone, the first thing you should determine is, are they ready to hear me? Are they ready to take on new information? Because if they're not, just move on, right? And to add, yeah, and to add to what I was saying earlier, when I was still in the military, especially early on in my career, I noticed a lot of things just didn't sit right with me. I was like, that's stupid. That doesn't seem right. That's like unfair. And I'm not saying the Army's supposed to be fair, but then I said, oh, wait, why don't I read this 4 volumes of rules and regulations and find out what my parameters are? And then as soon as I read those, boy, was I a thorn in people's side, because they didn't know what the F they were talking about. And I had the facts. And boy, did they feel my wrath. Anyway, oh geez. Oh, Jana? Yeah, Jana, I agree with you. I want and I hope that everyone is going to be apathetic, have empathy, etc., and understanding and the intelligence to learn new things and bring things on board. But this ties into what I just said. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And sometimes we've got to tailor things, right? I know you're going to add to me, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. But that's why the PP is doing so well. He's got those slogans. And that's what Trump did. He had these slogans and marketing. And I'm not saying that the other parties have to have slogans or marketing, but they have to shorten some of it. Because yes, a lot of people here, we get it. We have the attention span, right? We have the background. But we also have to remember not everyone is like you. We're all very different. We have, 36 million people in this country. All right. So let's get the most effective message with the biggest impact, and let's find that. Because if we try and cover everything that we want to cover as empathetic people, we will not get the message across. We have to tailor it with the most impact and what most people care about. And I hate that we have to do it. Anyway, that's all I got on that.
Can I just
I'll
say
add
something?
something to that. I was going to say I'll add something too, but I know that Jana had her hand up, so let's go Jana and then Zojin. And then if you guys do want to chat, the new people that are here, just please put your hand up so that I can go in order, okay? And then, okay, so Jana, Zojin, Angela.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I had someone on one of my posts because I got on the wrong side of TikTok, which is fine, actually, because that's almost where I want to be. Because I'm not trying to get through to the liberals or the NDPers who are already going to vote left. I'm trying to get through to the people in the middle, in the center, or even center right. You know what I mean? I'm never going to get through to the far right people. They're sold on it, sold on people. But I want, like, someone made a smart comment. Oh, look at all the comments you're getting. This, I bet you regret this decision. And I'm like, no, actually, because I'm getting people that are not liberals or NDPers, who are not necessarily thinking of voting left, who may be buying into what PP's trying to sell. Those are the ones we need to reach. Are those ones in the center to center right? Those are the undecided voters. We need to reach those people much more, because that's where we're going to get more people over and voting away from, like, anybody but PP. Frankly, is my motto. Like, I know who my preference is, but I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say, was that, sometimes it's okay to be on the wrong side of TikTok. Unfortunately, I have to put up with a lot of flack. You should see my flagged comments. They're awesome on some of my posts. And then people get mad at me. Even when I release them, TikTok just doesn't take them because they're so bad. Like, they're using all kinds of, TikTok bad words, and they just don't go through. But I guess my point is that, we can't let it get us down when we're getting inundated with negativity from the right, because I don't believe it's really the majority anymore. I think we're closer to a 50-50 split now, which is a good thing. But we need to keep it up, and we can't slow down. And I was going to mention, I've had this thought a few times. Why don't we have merchandise? Like, is that something we could, like, collaborate on? And what I would love to see is some sort of merchandise where we go through a store, and the money that's made from it goes to charity, rather than just, profiting off of it. Just, I was thinking like T-shirts or stuff. I don't know. Just throwing that idea out there for people to ponder.
The Hatter's already got that going, just FYI.
I know
He's
I
got
saw
merch
something
already
about
going.
that, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
But yeah, we're gonna do Zojin, Angela, and then Miss Lotus Lady also had her hand up, so we're gonna go in that order: Zojin, Angela, and then Miss
Just
Lotus.
when I was doing my little rant there about knowing if you want to be right or you want to resolve the situation or reach someone, one of the commenters said, okay, Zojin, but then you can't just block people when you disagree with them. And I want just to chime in and say, no, you absolutely can. If you think someone doesn't want to listen, you think someone is just trying to aggravate you, or they're wasting your time, or they're out to hurt you, you have every right to block them, no matter who you are, but especially if you're a marginalized person. Like, my rant is not telling people how they should approach others. It's saying we should be honest with what we want out of any given exchange, because that will change how we choose to act. So choosing to block someone or to not engage with someone that is being toxic or is just not worth your time to try to convince is perfectly acceptable. That's it.
Thank you, Angela.
Hi. I love following
Hi, welcome.
I love following you, by the way. I follow him. So it's so true. Like, so let's just get to the social media part of it. It's very hard to convince someone. We're not here to convince anyone, right? That's not my objective at all, right? Even though whatever party I decide to vote for in the long term. However, it's been such a smear campaign from the time that Pierre got in, and he's used the playbook of Trump 100%.
And
He's
Joseph Goebbels.
yes. And he's taken particular words, right, that he uses, but he's also using small phrases, right? So now he can use the tax, acts of tax. And he used that for the longest term, right? The longest time. But now the new politicians that are coming in, right? The potential leaders in the next election, they're going away from acts. They're going away from the carbon tax now. Some of them are going away from that. So now he's got to change the narrator, right? He's got to change it. So what's he doing? He's saying the election is based on Justin Trudeau, even though he's not there. But he's not running in the next election because he can't find another direction to go in. And the point of all this is his branding of himself that he's done in 2.5 years has locked into everyone's mind, right? Because he stood beside the occupation that happened in Ottawa, right? He stood beside different protesters, and he stood beside the students, right, that are out there and they're fighting, right? From India, right? He stood beside them. So he knows how to approach a certain group. But the point is, how can you change somebody's thoughts about something, right? When they've seen this and heard this for 2.5 years, right? In my own family alone, I have a sister who voted for Trump. Do you know what challenge that is for me? To be in a family like this? She's a Canadian because she was born in Canada, but she also moved to the U.S., but she has the Canadian and the U.S., right? So she voted for Trump. My other siblings, and they, for some reason, do not like Justin Trudeau. So I say, why don't you like Justin Trudeau? And they're coming up with situations that Trump is saying. But we live in Canada. We're not in the same situation. And how can I possibly convince them? How can I tell them that, he's not running the next election anyway, right? And second of all, the election that I hope is not going to be an early election. I hope it's not, because I don't think we're in the right frame right now for an early election, because our temperatures are too high and we need to cool them down. So I'm hoping that when Janine and everybody goes back in, because we're going to be in the midst of the tariffs, right? That they will focus on that first and accept the new leader that comes in, right? It would be the new prime minister, and focus on this first and not call an early election. Because I don't think we're in the right frame, and we will get in a Pierre majority if it does happen that way.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Everything
Hold on.
went quiet.
Hold on. Sorry. Miss Lotus Lady was going to go after. She had her hand up, so I'm going to let her speak, and then you can answer that after, if that's okay.
Of course, of course.
Hey everyone, how you guys doing?
Hi there.
Hi. So I gather we're talking about just how we combat propaganda, how we talk to people who are very set in their ways about what they think, etc. Is that kind of the gist of it? So when I first came onto TikTok, I came on during the convoy, and I didn't know very much about what was going on because I had spent a lot of time on Facebook in American politics. And I just felt this need to come back to Canada. And I found all the Canadians on TikTok. And right away, I started, when I first started making content and I first started interacting on TikTok, I thought the assignment was to be as adversarial as possible, to the people in the convoy and anybody who supported the convoy. And I threw in with some groups of people at the time who we all did that. And then the convoy ended. And then it was almost like we didn't have somebody to go after anymore. So we started going after each other on the same side of the political spectrum. And I realized that it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work to continually just shitpost, pardon my language, and attack and attack and attack and attack. So that's when I started to shift into bringing receipts and educating. And the way I view it, like I spent a lot of time in recovery, and you get people coming in who don't want to listen to a thing you have to say, tell you it's never going to work for them. You don't know what you're talking about. There's no way that you can achieve, you're lying basically. And so you learn a lot about how to gain trust and then how to let people meet you, or you meet people where they're at, and then eventually they are in a position where they can hear what you have to say. So what I started to do was I started to make videos where I thought, you know what, I'm going to take your comment. If you're rude and ignorant to me, I'm going to take your comment and I'm going to spin it into something positive, where maybe you don't hear what I have to say and maybe it embarrasses you a little bit, but the 50 other people that see that video, it might actually resonate with them. I did that today. There was a perfect example today where I had somebody who, was swearing at me and calling me all kinds of names. And most of the times I delete those comments, but this time I thought, you know what, there's something to prove here. And I did a video and I showed how many political parties we have registered at the federal level with Elections Canada. And what that did was that let people know that there's more than 5 parties or more than 4 parties or more than 6 parties, not just the main players all the time. There's tons of registered parties out there that people support and are part of our political apparatus. Now that guy, he answered, of course, with some more expletive deletives, and I ended up deleting his comments in my key filters and blocking him. But other people saw that, and maybe the 5 parties aren't resonating with them, but one of those 17 parties might resonate with them. And the goal is to get people involved. I don't want to fall into the same trap of yay sports, yay team, yay sports, right? I want everybody to be represented and feel represented and feel heard. Whether their party sits in parliament or not. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I never go at it in a way of where I'm trying to win somebody over or I'm trying to make somebody see my way of thinking. It's more about here's the information, here's the way I see that information. These are my conclusions around that information. And then you can take that and run with it however you want. And I actually have had some success on this app changing people's minds that way. There was one particular case where it was a transgender issue. When I was making a lot of transgender content, advocating for the transgender community. And there was this guy from the States who came in and he was like coming in hot. And I thought he was a conservative and I was combative with him at first. And as I talked to him a little bit more, it turned out that he was actually somebody who was centrist and had just fallen for some really bad conspiracy theory bullshit. And as we talked, the light bulb came on for him, and we ended, and he said, "You know what? I'm so glad that we talked this out. I'm so embarrassed that was my stance before, and I will never, ever, ever say those things ever again." And I believe we're still mutuals to this day. And that's how we win people over. That's how we change minds. That's how we get people to hear the information. There's some people that are never going to care what you have to say. I don't care about those people, but I'll take their content and I will flip it into something that's beneficial for everyone. And somebody out there will see it and it will change their mind or plant the seed. That's it.
Thank you for that. Christine?
Thank you. Miss Lotus Lady, thank you for watching my videos and commenting. I love your work. And Angela, what I started to do was educate myself and got smartest by watching Beaver Politics and Miss Lotus Lady and some others. And what they did for me was got me in, to realize that I knew nothing. So I better learn something. And then what I did was I stylized it to my own belief system and how to approach things. And I like the KISS system, which is just keep it simple, stupid. So when someone says something about PP's, carbon tax, and all I do is, hey, did you know that it was the Harper-led Conservative Party that actually brought that in? And they can't fight that because it's true. And they'll stutter and sputter. And if they're intelligent enough, they might have a conversation. We'll talk about some other things. If they're the type of person that just needs to be right, I move along because I'm going to waste my breath. So I just whittle it down to a very clear, concise message that's backed up by watching videos by these two lovely ladies and others. And, here, what about this? And if they're not going to listen, I'll move on to the next. And I think Miss Lotus Lady said it really well. Those people that aren't going to hear you, that come in just for the fact that they want to be antagonistic and attack, turn it around and kind of piss them off a bit, but who cares about them? And use that as a way to help others see it our way or your way or whomever, That's it.
Thank you for sharing. I'd like to hear something from TT Cabin Fever and CC as they join the panel, and I want to make sure that everybody gets heard. So do you guys have anything that you want to add to this conversation?
Yes. Who do you want to go first?
Well, you spoke first, so it's you.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of Beaver Politics. I always love Indigenous Night. I always listen when I can, and I'm First Nations also. I'm from the Cree tribe, and so politics. I totally into it. I'm always up to date with everything that's going on in Canada because it affects me as a Canadian, but also as a First Nations person. Because of our treaty rights, inherent rights. And I look at each political party and see what their platform is as related to Indigenous people. I always I love the NDP party because they're Jack Meek Singh. I love his platform, and Democratic. I like that socialist kind of stuff. I'm not a capitalist in any way, but the Liberals, they have a lot of good policies as well. They're kind of a centrist party, and a lot of things that we could talk. There's natives, First Nations who are on all political spectrums. We have conservatives that are natives, every party. And we have also people who don't want to participate in Canadian politics because they view it as a foreign political system. That's not our traditional Indigenous form of governance. I totally see that aspect. But myself, I do vote because I believe these policies affect our current rights. Like whatever government goes in there, they could have an assimilationist policy that might not be beneficial, or they might do resource extraction and all kinds of things that affect us. And so many things as First Nations now are with Trump wanting to take over Canada that could affect their treaties as well. So many issues currently, like whoever becomes prime minister, whatever party gets in there, or what goes on with all these things. So yeah, we're in interesting times for sure.
Thank you for sharing. I think that's legit. We need to, that's kind of what I wanted to close off the live with, but I'm going to do that later to talk about, what does happen if US takes over And do they really want to take over? And why is all that happening? But I'll address that after. However, TT Cabin, do you want to join in?
Hey, thank you. I've just been listening. I don't have a lot to add, but I really like what you guys are saying about just giving information rather than fighting. And I put in the comments that I think everyone should look at I think it's politicalcompass.com, which it gives you an opportunity to look at things that are important to you, and then it gives you information on which party you align with, because there are a lot of options. And also, like, people have this notion about needing to vote for the winner, voting for directly for the prime minister. Hey Joe, you got some noise. Nice to see you.
Sorry about that.
um
Just adjusting.
no worries. But I mean, in my ideal world, no matter what the so to speak winner is, we would have a minority government. Minority government is a great thing that is here in Canada, and it really forces everybody to work together, and so that's a very powerful thing. um yeah, so I think that's really important also. Like, I always work at elections, because I think facilitating the vote and making sure that people have the opportunity and just upholding our democracy in that way is it feels good anyway. Well, no, I'm not going to lie, it's very stressful of all the elections I've done, but from an ethical standpoint, that feels good. And I guess just the last thing is that I've been considering a lot about why we see this like populism uprise around the world and here in Canada, and what those types of politics are about. And this panel and what you guys are talking about is the antidote to that. But sloganism and and getting people in their feels and having them have an emotional reaction is the playbook. So, like, I don't know if anybody has ideas about like different ways to sort of counteract that. um or I'm not even sure if counteracting is the thing to do, but I think just being in observance of it and having awareness about it and being able to point out when I see something as being that type of a manipulation could be helpful, I guess. So I don't know. I'll just sort of lob that in and let y'all speak on that.
Can I say something?
For sure.
So just to mention something I've seen a couple people throughout the years talk about is that if you are trying to will debate someone or talk about a subject that someone's on the other side about, the best way to get to them is to find something that you could relate to them and agree on first. So that's like an in with them. So if you're talking with someone who's, I don't know, let's say who's a PP voter, you're talking about a specific subject, trying to find something that you could agree on that's related to that subject, and then move from there. So I don't do that a lot. I try not to debate a lot, but that's one thing that I've heard a lot.
I really like that, Sean, and I just want to add, yeah, like you really completed my thought with that, and I think that is a really good approach. And so, with the emotionality, I mean, that is often an entry point, right? It's like people are concerned because they can't pay for things, and and they have various different situations that is motivating them, or like problems that they see needing fixing. And oftentimes, even though I don't agree with what they see as the way forward, I'm with them on that concern. So I totally agree.
Can I add?
Yep. Go
I
for
have
it.
a real life example of what the last two speakers were kind of talking on. My neighbor down the road, We get along. He has some beliefs that I strongly disagree with. But the last time I spoke to him, I wasn't going to challenge him on those. I wasn't going to try and bully him on those because I knew it's human nature. When you're being attacked, you get defensive. Your ears close. This is literally biology. Your blood rushes to your muscles and you get ready for a fight. So I didn't say, oh, those are horrible ideas. How could you be so, off on those subjects? I was like, I understand. And in Canada, that's your right to have those thoughts. But when you look at it, what the government is doing to both of us is taking advantage and distracting us by these simple things, because those people you hate, whatever they're doing really doesn't affect us, buddy. But the government, those bastards making all that money, because I knew that would really kind of bring them in, right? Are using us both. So now I've made it personal to him. And what they're doing is called culture war. And he had no idea what I was talking about. He's like, oh, what's that? And I said, it's when people in power pit two different sides against each other, so we do not pay attention to those rich bastards in power. And he's like, oh my God, tell me more. And I said, yeah, we should forget the culture war, because those people you dislike really don't affect you, buddy. But those rich bastards do. We should focus on, not culture war. Come on, what's the other one?
Class war?
Yes, thank you. I had a brain fart. Class war. And he's like, oh my God, tell me more. So even though he has some abhorrent ideas about two groups of people, I knew if that I went in hot on that, biology would kick in, his ears would shut off, and he would just go in defense mode. Now, I'm going to slowly get him out of those thoughts, but right now, bigger picture.
Agreed. All right, guys. Well, I think we should kind of start wrapping it up. And what I wanted to touch on, and this might sound a little negative and scary, but I wanted to say my piece on this. When we're talking about a messaging, right? How do we have a united message to get us out of this situation? I really, really feel like we need to get people to realize and maybe learn, because I think a lot of people don't actually know the details of what happened in 1930s Germany. But that is what's happening. We are repeating history. So I feel like our message should be tailored towards, this is what's happened, and now we're repeating it. And it is scary. It is like almost play by play, but in the modern world using modern technology. But it's the same thing. It is absolutely the exact same thing that happened, and we are seeing it in front of our eyes. And for those of us that understand and know the details of what happened throughout those years, all the way back from technically the 1920s, with how Mustache Man became who we know him to be. I'm trying to be very careful here how I choose my wording for TikTok. But we need to understand the whole story. We need to understand the whole story all the way from the 1920s to the 1940s. We need to understand what happened there, and we need to know the details, because I think a lot of people did not really learn their history very well. They just know Mustache Man bad. That's all they know. But they know Mustache Man created genocide. That's what they know. But how? What are those details? Because when we look at those details, we see them completely and utterly mirrored in what we are witnessing today. But now it's even bigger than that, because now we have multiple countries and global institutions like the IDU working on these same tactics. Obviously, United States is now the most clear picture of it, but it is exactly what happened in the 1930s. I mean, this is what I've been saying for the last couple of days, but for those of you that know the details, do you guys not feel like we're kind of like Austria right now?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Totally see it.
100%.
Right? What did Mustache Man do? He made people in Austria love him, praise him. What's Trump trying to do right now to Canadians? He's trying to change our narrative in this country so they look at him as a savior. So that if United States just waltzes in here, people will just welcome it with open arms. That's what they're working on. And remember, it took a little bit of time, right? He didn't go into Austria right away. He took that time to push that narrative and craft that message so that he could just waltz in there and say, oh no, we're not taking over, but we're taking over.
He groomed.
Right?
Absolutely. And I think maybe doing some education, like maybe I might just do some educational videos, like just facts on what happened, you know, for people to think about. So I don't know where that was from. It wasn't me. I'm Gen X, so I grew up learning a little bit more about that history and seeing more, because it was closer to my age group when I was a child, right? So seeing a lot more TV shows tackling it and talking about it and what have you. But now it's so far away that the younger generation doesn't see the connections the way that some of us do.
Can I say something?
Christine, sorry.
Yeah, let's let Christine go and then Sean.
Okay, thank you. He literally groomed Germany. He started off slow with things that were actually issues, like they were the austerity, is that the word? The depression. After the First World War, the Allies, put a price on them. They had to pay back for the war. So Germany was really suffering. So he started off with that, something that was actually real. And then he started giving, well, it's not your fault. You're actually great people. It's not your fault that you're poor or you can't find a job. So now he's building up their self-esteem. And then he says, you know whose fault it is? And he picks a group. And Trump's going to do the same thing. And if anyone wants to see a really good video about this, go to Beaver Politics. She does a great video on Goebbels, the 11 steps to propaganda. And you can literally see how that was used as a template in the United States recently. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Sean.
Yeah, so what a lot of people don't realize is that the Yahtzees weren't automatically 1945 Yahtzees. They started out in 1920 and they moved up, and then once they finally got some power in 1933, again, they didn't jump right to 1945, they took steps. And as Frontline Feminists said before, that is exactly what Trump is doing. He is taking every step that Mustache Man has taken, and he's going in that direction. And when we say, oh, he's like a Yahtzee or he's like Mustache Man, people right away like, no. He's not setting up summer camps and
but
stuff
he
like
is.
That. Well, yeah, Gitmo. But, no, he's not there. But it's not like 1 to 100 in 0 seconds, Like that's what a lot of people don't understand.
100%. TT, you wanted to go next.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree, and I'm deeply concerned. So sorry, I might get a bit ranty here, but at first, I just want to throw in some source materials. I think everyone on this panel is super educated, but maybe this can be suggestion source materials for other people. I really like the Real Dictators, a Noisers podcast, and they go beyond looking at Mustache Man. They basically dissect all the times in history, like there's Stalins in there, and I don't know, actually maybe I shouldn't name the names, but anyway, you guys all know. Also, there's a documentary I stumbled upon that's from about 5 years ago called Me the People, which looks at like a little bit backdated examination of the uprise of populism and what that looks like, right? And the steps of that, which are really simplified. It's like blame migrants on economic changes, find aggrieved people, foment fear and anger. And so these are good things to look at. I think that really help clarify the ways in which we saw this in Brexit, we see this in Trump, but also we're seeing it in Canada. And just I think, like, I'm trying to go around and highlight these little incremental changes to people, without, because I don't want to debate with people, and I don't want to, like, sound conspiracy theorist or whatever when I'm pointing this out. So it's a difficult thing, but, like, minute changes, like, the disengagement from the media or taking over the media, right? And I mean, from fake news Trump to, like, speaking about defunding the CBC, to the disinformation of the internet, to, like, news, quote unquote, air quotations, news sources like Rebel Media. So, that's alarming. I also don't like how one of our politicians said that the government workers are all lazy. So, starting to um, uh, uh, degrade the image of the governmental system. Like, it's kind of like death by a thousand cuts. And I agree with you guys that these things are happening right now in front of our face. And I think one of the mistakes that we make as Canadians is that when America goes all crazy, we're really proud of how we are different. And we are different. One of my American friends calls us America with a conscience. And I think that that's true, but that doesn't mean that, that these things are enshrined in our future, that the human rights are enshrined in our future. I think it's alarming about the xenophobia rhetoric, just all of the things, targeting marginalized groups of people. Like, all of these things are these steps. So I think, like, we need to keep talking and keep awake, and keep informing ourselves and studying the history so that we can talk about it with people. Sorry, that was long and ranty, but
No, it's totally okay. And exactly what you ended with there, I think, is one of the biggest things that we need in order to move forward in terms of having a common message, because I feel like on the left the message has been like NDP versus liberal and then a bunch of infighting, when realistically the message that we all need to be putting out there is, let's teach people history, because this whole thing is happening because people don't know history. I can guarantee you, of all those apathetic people, because we're talking, coming back to the apathy, right? The people that we talked about that just, like, don't care because they don't think it's a big deal. I guarantee you that if those people understood that history is repeating itself right now, they would be a lot more motivated to go out and vote and do something. Look at the protests in Germany right now. Look at the thousands upon thousands of people in the street protesting against the AFD because they see and they know the history is repeating itself, because they learned that history a lot better than we did in our schools. We had to go and kind of learn it ourselves, because in our school, I don't even remember learning it in social studies. I have no idea if we ever learned it in school, to be honest. We maybe spent like an hour or two on it, but this is stuff that we've had to teach ourselves, right? And most Canadians don't go out and search for that information, right? Especially in something like, the spiritual yoga community. They're all reading about chakras and Ayurvedic healing and connecting to spirit and ways to meditate, which is great. I spent years reading and learning that stuff, and I think it's great. It's very positive. But now we need people to focus on actually understanding our recent human history of the last 100 years or so. They need to understand dictatorship and how that was brought to power in these different countries, right? Because Germany's just the big one, right? It's the big one. And it's the one that ended up involving the other ones too, right? Like Mussolini, Italy, they all kind of became involved together. So that's why Germany kind of seems to be the most talked about history right now, because of the similarities. But let's not forget all the other tyrants, right? Like that book On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, great book, talks about tyrants as a whole and goes through the list of all of them, and they all follow the same playbook. So again, I think moving forward, a good message for all of us, whether we're NDP or liberal voters, it doesn't matter. We need to start teaching people about history. We need to start constantly bringing it up that, hey guys, this is a little bit too similar to back then, don't you think?
Yeah, and just to add one other thing to that, that I think like this kind of sucks, but when there are human rights infringements taking place, I think it's helpful sometimes to be able to connect for people how those human rights of that group of people that they are apathetic about is going to fall back on everybody, right? So when we can draw those connecting points, then like it might be a selfish motivation that that people need to understand that that's going to come back on them, but it's helpful.
Because even in the Holocaust, they started with the mentally disabled and the physically disabled, which was a small portion of the population. Then they went to gypsies, which was also a small portion of the population. Um, homosexuals. Uh, there's probably a lot more, but you visible in the community, there was a small portion, and and they built it up, and they built it up.
Well, they chose the enemy. They picked enemies that they could target and get people behind. And the enemies now are the trans community, which to me is utterly ridiculous because it's less than 1% of the population, but people are just eating it up because they don't understand them. And difference scares people. And that's part of the problem, is that people are scared of things they don't understand.
Well, because they can't be the problem. It's got to be someone else's fault, right? That's what they tell them.
So it's basically PP's going after the same people, trans and immigrants. And that's who.
And Indigenous people.
And Indigenous, exactly. And Indigenous people. And it's the same thing Trump's doing. And that's what PP's targeting. Like that Johnny McDonald comment that I made a video about that is doing really well, which I'm glad about because I wanted to get the message out, is basically he's telling you who he is. He's telling you who he is without saying it.
Yeah, but if you have no understanding of history, then you can't see that. And that's the problem that we need to figure out how to tackle.
And one of their biggest arguments is that immigrants are taking all our housing. And like the two things I say on that is, do you know how housing funding works? And then I explain how provincial premiers of provinces use the money and how they don't use the money because they don't. And that a vast majority, at least 30% of the housing is owned by corporations. Immigrants aren't buying houses. They can't afford it. And they're gobsmacked. They're like, oh my, what? And
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah.
I think that like also like just zooming out for people and laying it like I'm not sure how the empowered class of the world has managed to convince so many people that they are not oppressors, but it's very easy to draw a picture for people that have bought into these ideas of the because it's always like if you look at it for like a triangle, it's the people at the bottom that somehow they're always pointing at, right? And it's like how not only like how is it that that somebody who whatever person I'm speaking to believes that this person that is absolutely disempowered in the general picture of things is somehow oppressing them, right? And so I try and make arguments towards that about like let's look at like how much power this group of people that you're hating on actually has, and I do that like anecdotally or whatever, and then it always comes back to, well, who's paying the like who are we paying the bills to? Where's the money train going? Like, sorry, Joe, go ahead.
I mean, so that reminds me of a picture I'm sure many people have seen. It's a picture of three people at a table. An old guy with a large plate of cookies, a worker sitting beside him with a single plate with one cookie on it, and a picture of somebody who looks like a person that a migrant worker. The old guy's looking at him with his big pile of cookies and saying, "That guy's trying to steal your cookie." The messaging is pretty much what's going on right now in regards to whether it be migrant workers, whether it be leftists, sorry, not leftists, migrant workers, LGBTQ, you name it, the bad guy that they can characterize using tribalism, using their fear tactics. For example, trans one is a very easy one to do. They did it all the way back to Mustache Man back in the day. Mostly because it's, for many people, it's a caricature. They don't know who trans people are because they've never, a lot of people just never interacted with trans people because it's such a small percentage. And even LGBTQ for quite a while was also the same thing too. So they're always going to be looking for small, quiet groups that people don't know because they can just eat whatever picture they want. Try to educate the history, I think is an absolutely fantastic idea. Unfortunately, that might be more monumental than we think of. Again, right now, we're dealing with an entire population that's, as I believe you guys were stating that statistics, over 50% of the people are not only just not voting, they're just not engaged with the world. They're not aware of what's going on, nor do they care. We have to tell them that, Trump is in power. They're surprised. Oh, thank you, Magic. They don't even know what's going on. And so to try to just come in there and try to teach history hopefully to get them to care, need to find a way to kickstart that. Because they're not going to get, you go in there, you bring books and lessons, everything else, not going to work. It's not going to register. They're like, all right, cool. I got, half the time, right now, this is the perfect time for this to grow right now because particularly from millennial generation down, they're working super hard. If you're down at Gen Z, you're working twice as many jobs just to do half the amount of money that we were able to do back then. And they're not going to, so they're either going to be already ramped up and angry because of whatever rhetoric they've been hearing, because the people who have the, people who have the media have control about that, which are the older people who are listening to it, to the younger people who are just too disengaged because they just don't have time. So who do you got left?
Yeah, and we're gonna wrap it up here. No, it's okay. I already said when I brought up this topic that it's gonna be a downer kind of topic, but my phone's gonna die soon, so we do need to kind of wrap it up. I want to give one thing though, so that we can all really think about it, and then I'm gonna let everyone say a final piece. You're right. The biggest problem is, like, how do we get people engaged? And we say that, oh, people don't have time. What do we learn? The one thing that we've learned from history, though, is that people don't get engaged until something really bad happens. And I don't want us to get there. So is there a way for us to get creative? Because human beings have been very creative. We've come up with new ideas, new solutions, new ways of doing things. So I think our task as the ones that are aware of the similarities between what happened then and what's happening now, we just need to get into that creative mind space of how do we reach those people before something that catastrophic happens again. And that's my 2 cents. And now I want to let everybody say their last piece, whether it has to do with what I just said or whether it has to do with something else. But take 2 minutes to talk to the audience and tell them what you're thinking, tell them what you're feeling, give people advice. And I guess one more thing I'll add before I pass it on to you guys, and I'll go through each one, is please, if you are in this live and you don't know your history that well, it's not a bad thing. We're not picking on you, but please, please, please go watch some documentaries, read some books, listen to podcasts, while you're driving to work, while you're taking a bus. Whenever you do have that extra little bit of time, maybe instead of listening to music or watching some TV shows that you usually watch or playing the video games that you usually play, because if we can have time for those, we can also have time to become more educated. So I just want to beg everybody to please, please, please learn more about your history, because it's going to give you some really good understanding to what's happening in the present moment and what we can do about it. So that's my piece. Sean, I will start with you, and then we'll go Sean, Angela, TT, Joe, Treaty, and Christine.
Yeah, so I agree with you. During the pandemic, that's when I did most of my World War II research. I watched documentary after documentary and read things and all that, and you know, it's not all that boring. Yeah, I know history can be boring, but some documentaries and some books are written very, very well. And you know, I haven't listened to any podcasts, but I'm sure there are podcasts dedicated to history. So you know, when you said you're riding on the bus, listen to a podcast or in the car. But yeah, no, I really do think that you're hit the nail on the head with that. We need to learn our history, and also don't be afraid to talk to people about it. You know, you could find ways to bring it up casually in a conversation, or even if it's not casual, you know what? Sit down with a friend, say, "Look, this is where we are. I need to talk to you about this. It's serious." Or even if you don't want to be serious, just you know, friendly chat about it. It's very important that we start communicating and learning and you know just move on from there. That's really all I have to say at the moment. But thank you again for having me up tonight.
Thank you for being here, Angela.
Hi. So that was very well said. First of all, remember when Trump said in the beginning when he was going to come in, he was going to be a dictator? But I don't think anybody really believed he was. But he is, and he will. Someone just sent me a video of what is happening in the United States with the deportation, and it's pretty scary and graphic to even watch. But that's the reality of what's happening. I'd like to invite everyone to 1812 reenactment. I live in Stony Creek, Ontario, and we do the reenactment every single year. So in case people are not too familiar, that's part of our history, right? It's about when America tried to invade parts of Canada, right? Invade Canada. And so we do the reenactment every single year in June. I don't have a specific day in June yet, but I think this is the best way to learn about history, about what happened, because I believe Trump is still living in the past. And I think he still would love to get Canada. We don't know why, because it's our resources. It's our resources at this point. But I'd like to invite everyone to see it because I've actually met the great grandson of Billy Green. So do you know the history of Billy Green? How he warned, right? So he narrates it. You go through a house because at this particular time in Stony Creek, a family was held captive in their basement when this happened, right? And so they invite you every single year to come to this reenactment. It's at Battlefield Park, and you get an opportunity to go through the house. They will educate you, right, on everything that happened between 1812 to 1815. And at the very, very end, and this is the shocker, this is what they say to you. They say, can you imagine if we became American? And that's the reality that we're facing now. So I just wanted to invite everyone.
Thank you, Angela. And just let us know closer to the date, too. Post it all over your socials. All right, TT, your turn.
Thanks.
Final thoughts, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I like what everyone's saying here, and I recommend that Real Dictators podcast. I think it's also just super interesting, just even for entertainment. But Joe, what you said last was kind of resonating with me about like the apathy, and so I just want to reiterate the point that I was trying to make earlier. Sorry, I haven't had dinner yet, so like I'm probably not going to make a ton of sense, but basically I think one of the keys about getting people interested on the human rights front is tying back the ways in which these infringements impact them. And like I was trying to think of an example, and the only one I could think of is just it doesn't really relate to a lot of what's going on right now, but in conversations I had years ago with like men's rights activism and just, I don't know if y'all have heard the rhetoric about men have bad outcomes in like parenting cases, and this has been like thrown at me as like a way in which men are being mistreated and XYZ. And the point to them is that's because it's the same patriarchal system that's relegating what gender roles are that the women are suffering under. So this patriarchal structure that's sexist is hurting both of us. And over on the American Lives, one of the things that I've heard being discussed a lot is about like civil rights initiatives from the 60s, how white women were the biggest beneficiaries of that. And I can't put that eloquently with like I said, I haven't had dinner, but I'm sure as these groups of people are being marginalized, that this is going to have ramifications to people that are apathetic, and so I think being able to like put together concise thoughts about that, which hopefully I can do at a later date as discussion points, to like point out to people how they are going to be hurt by these things. And I think that might help motivate people to give more shits. But anyway, and also just thank you for to all of you. I've really enjoyed listening to what everyone has had to say.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes. Tip for TT. One of the things I learned from other people was, in my case, I can easily do this. I just fire up Notepad on my computer because I've got my computer in front of me. The hand means something. So I'm able to fire up Notepad. So as you guys are talking, I'm able to write out notes. Trick that works for me that I learned from other people. I'm asking along to anybody else who might enjoy it. But that brings me to the points here. So the first part, which was about history education. Now, I've learned a fair amount of stuff when I was in school, partly because I was in private school for a few years. That gave me a different sort of version. But one of the things I do remember quite clearly in regards to history, what history was taught was, in regards to World War I and World War II, was Canada's involvement. Baby Ridge, Juno Beach, all the heroics we did there, great. What about what started it? Glossed over. What about what the cause of it glossed over? What about the the camps? Oh, well, people were brought here and bad things were done. How did this occur? No time. Now we'd be going on to our great patriotic expansion into Canada. Colonialism. Okay, yeah, that's a better one to gloss over. Sure. But I'm going to tangents here. Point being, we did gloss over. You're absolutely right. We do need to do a better job. We should be doing a better job because in horrible things like this, we should be discussing and learning about the why these things occurred, how they occurred. Want to make sure it never happens again. We need to know how it started. We need to know all the stuff in there. We should be focused. So now that we're in it, in a sense, and again, most people won't realize that we're in horrible situations halfway through it, as something I've been hearing a couple of times this week. We need to start talking about the idea that we are in it. He's only been in the power for 1 week, but he's already put out a whole bunch of stuff. And let's be honest here, there's not much of a chance of anything's going to be changing between now and the end of his term. And we're not even sure if that's going to be the end of him being in power at the end of his term. There's already legislation right now being proposed to extend his ability to go past 2 terms. Whether it passes or not, we don't know. But it is going to be going. He's going to be doing these plans, and it's going to get much, much, much more uglier. But there's a couple of things we can do. And this is where we start. We need to plan, not only trying to make sure we can talk to people to try to convince them not to go here, but I mean, some of these plans that you're also talking about are even much more horrifying. Aside, we've got the ones that affect us immediately in regards to tariffs, to potential attempts at annexation, to which we need to be prepared for those kind of situations. To right now, there is an all-out war to trans people. And one of the first things we're probably going to be seeing at some point soon is asylum seeking into Canada from people with trans issues. We can help there, provide assistance in regards to you have ability to provide housing for people looking for situations, absolutely. If you can sponsor people coming in, absolutely. In many cases, you could be saving a life just from helping somebody coming in across the border, looking for just to be who they are. I know a lot of people here are allies, and so this is probably the first thing where we can probably put a lot of focus in getting started organizing, because they're going to be coming. They're going to be desperate, they're going to be lost, and they're going to need our help. That's my time.
I agree. And I'm just going to point out before we move to Treaty Birder that, yeah, you're right. We're in the middle of it. This didn't start in 2024. This started in 2016. This started in 2015. Yeah.
Yep.
Treaty.
Yep, I would.
Okay, thanks. So when I think about this from like thinking about sharing history and stuff, I can't help but think that the history that happened to Indigenous people on Turtle Island isn't that long ago. And going through reconciliation in the last like almost decade, I guess, right? It's been a real journey of new trauma again and reliving things and learning things some of us never knew about. So I feel like we were just starting to heal and we're getting on a healing journey, and now it's coming at us again. But what I'm sensing is also going to happen is at a grassroots level, Indigenous people across Turtle Island are going to start standing up, and they're not going to let this happen again. So I ask all of you, if you see action happening, Idle No More or Land Back or any other type of gathering that's led by Indigenous people, please stand with us and stand alongside us and help keep us safe in those moments and amplify our voices, because I don't think we're going to stand around and watch this happen again. We learned, and we will honor our ancestors for what they endured, and we're never going to let this happen so our descendants can have a better life. And I really hope that we can all do it together. And that's really all I got to say, because everybody's been so brilliant tonight. I love that we have this sense of community here, and that we're supporting one another. So thank you so much for the time and sharing space with me. Hi, Kina Naskomta now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I think that at least you'll have a lot of allies, because there's a lot of us that do not want to see that happen again. And we will do whatever needs to be done, and we're okay to kind of like take the back bench, you know what I mean? And let Indigenous people lead in a movement where we can just help as much as we can. Because that's the big thing too, is like, right, white tea people are not the most important ones here. We're the ones that they're like, we can help, we can be allies, but if there's a movement that Indigenous people are starting, they should be leading 110%.
Yeah,
I truly believe that.
Thank
Christine.
you. We have such a, I just want to finish what we're thinking, because we have such a vested interest and tie and connection to this land. And all we want is what's going to be good for everybody. So thanks again. I really appreciate that. And sorry to interrupt for Christine.
Don't worry about it.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Treaty 6, I agree with Beaver politics. I'm here to fill out the numbers, and I got bail money. So whenever, wherever, just put the message out there. But my next question is to those that really want Canada to become the 51st state. What do you think is meant by annexing us? And how do you think that's going to happen? Do you think just one day the states is going to say, all right, you're a part of us now, and that will be it? No. Canadians will die. And the vast majority... go ahead. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. When we're on lives, just make sure that we say unalived.
Oh, pardon me. I love TikTok Shop. I love TikTok Shop. I love TikTok Shop. Just keep in mind, I'm told that by a vast majority of you that you really love our military. I've been thanked for my service multiple times. Now, I'm going to say, instead of thanking me, think about my brothers and sisters in arms, because they're the ones that will be unalived. So if you truly back our military, stop falling for this language or this twist of language. Annexing. It's not annexing. It's another word. And it's 3 letters starting with a W. Okay? And it won't just be my brothers and sisters in uniform. It'll be your grandma. It'll be your niece. It'll be your uncle. And if you look at any W that they've been in, the collateral damage is outrageous. It is horrifying, and they don't care. And if I've been condescending to anyone in the chat or anyone talking or leaving, that was not my intent. And my last thing is, my 2 last things are definitely take a look at history first with what happened in Germany in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, because it is very applicable right now. And if you have time after that, Canadian history is fascinating. I think a lot of people think that we have a boring history. No, we don't. We've done some incredible things and some not very nice things. So learn it all, because that's what we are as Canadians, our history, right? And let's make our future bright. Keep strong. Be positive, guys, right? Even if we don't succeed this time, pick yourself up and then wipe the dust off and keep going. Thanks for having me. This has been great.
Thank you guys so much, all of you, for being here, for having these conversations. It's so important that we do have these conversations. So I just want to thank the community. It's really quite amazing what we've been able to build here, and the like-minded people that we brought together from all different parts of Canada. And just thank you so much. I'm honestly, you have no idea how grateful I am that I have all of you guys in my life. Like I said many times before, if it wasn't for this beautiful community that I found over this app, I probably would be losing my mind. Because there's so many other people that, don't think like me in my everyday life, that are very kind of ignorant to what's going on right now. So being able to share these and have conversations is amazing, and it's inspiring. It gets me to do more and make posts and write articles and become involved and start email campaigns and all these other things. It's the community that makes people motivated enough to do this, because when you're on your own, it feels very dark and lonely, and it's not very motivating. So having the community, it means everything to me, and I think that you guys probably feel the same way a lot of the time.
Yep, for sure.
All right, guys.
One of the important,
go ahead.
Important things about it's one of the important things when it comes to the word organizing is to actually build said community. I've been in quite a few of them for quite a bit now, between Discord groups and Signal groups and else. Getting the activists together to work together on common goals is 100% important. It makes a difference. It not only helps to get whatever message we want to get across to and most effective strategies, but also, exactly to your point, which is helps motivate and helps people who are, it helps people not feel alone. Because the worst thing about the whole thing of any situation is feeling alone. That's just something I will.
Yeah. And I'm going to just add that, all the sociologists that are looking at what's happening right now all of them are telling us, get into your community, find your community, build your community. Because when times are like this, the most important thing in the entire world is that we build communities and we have communities to fall back on. That is the most important thing. So again, thank you. And with that, just so you guys know, we do have our Discord link for Beaver Politics up in our bio. So go check that out. Be part of the community. Come up, join our panel, have conversations with us. We absolutely love that all of you guys are getting involved. And to end everything off, if you are new, hi, we're Beaver Politics. We do live shows every single night of the week. Almost every single night. We're still looking for one more person to join us on Sunday, so I really want to put it out there. Somebody who we don't have on our team, who we'd like to have on our team, is somebody that's younger than 30. Because everybody that's on our team is older than 30. We're, either millennials or, boomers or Gen Xers. But we want some younger people that want to get involved, that aren't necessarily scared of, speaking on camera, hosting lives, because we really do want to be able to talk to the youth and get their perspective on what's going on, and hopefully even be able to educate them, right? So I think that's really important. If you know somebody like that, if you are somebody like that, please contact us. We are looking for another host for Sunday night, and hopefully we'll have a younger host as well, so that we can connect to the younger population as well. With that in mind, on Monday nights, we have Indigenous Nights with Treaty Birder right here. She's absolutely wonderful. Tuesday nights is News Hour with me, where I basically just talk to the camera for an hour, catch everybody up on what's going on around the world, and then sometimes, depending on how things are going in the live, I might open it up for a little bit of a discussion panel for another hour after that. Wednesday nights, we have the Progressive Moose with the Mossy side. Again, he's going to be catching you up on all sorts of different news, going into detail more on certain events. Then we have Thursdays, which is this open panel where we just pick a topic or two and we just talk about it until we can't talk about it anymore. Fridays is Polititalk with Nerdy, and it's a kind of more of a debate style where we do try to bring up opposition if they're respectful and have conversations around how we can find common ground. And she's absolutely amazing. Her lives sometimes will go for like 6, 7, 8 hours straight. So it's a really good time on Friday night to come join us on those lives as well. And then Saturdays we have the Radicals, which is Mrs. and Mr. Radical. And they're going to talk all about culture, news, what's happening, and just a new way to kind of look at humanity. So they're super awesome, very philosophical, especially Mr. Radical. So tune into those. We're so grateful to have you here, and thank you. We're gonna peace out for now, but check out our Discord, check out other links, and we also put these lives up on YouTube if you do ever want to go back and watch the whole thing to get any pieces that you might have missed. Good night, everyone.